Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is going to be a series called The Way of the World, and in The Way of the World I'm going to discuss the world around me and my life in it, past, future and present. Now, in service of the past, I think it's high time I answered a few questions. Where have you been? Where did you go? Where's the album? What happened? In order to answer those questions, let me take you back a bit. I'd signed to Interscope under Larry Jackson as my A&R. Jimmy Iovine was our boss at the time, and he'd started Interscope and made it the success it was. Larry's A&R coordinator was a girl called Natalie, and she was instrumental in everything we did in terms of creating my record, and she became a great friend of mine. I'm so proud of the record I made, the record we made, and I'm so proud of the people I made it with. I made some everlasting bonds and some memories I'll never forget. People like the Stereotypes and Clarence Coffey Jr. I'd made such connections and had such a great time with almost everybody I worked with, but those guys especially, I think we all felt so close to the record. It was an emotional one, and we felt a kinship to it, like we were on to some kind of adventure. We were recording it around the world, in LA and London, and it was the most amazing time. As we all began to feel that the album was finishing, something was brewing in the background. And that was that Apple was working on a merger with Beats. As part of that merger, Jimmy Iovine and Larry and Natalie all moved over to Apple. And so Apple Music was born, and my whole team had left. Now, being left at a record label is no different than being left at a bank or an insurance company or a law firm, whatever the case may be. I mean, left is maybe the wrong term. Marooned might be a better one, but it was none of their fault. Point being, the outgoing team who brings you in can feel sad. The incoming team can think you're great, but they didn't bring you on. They don't know you. You're not their priority. It was at this time my manager, Jordan Feldstein, who was Maroon 5's manager at the same time, which is the connection there, sent me on tour with them. And that started at Apple Music Festival, or iTunes Festival as was. That was a baptism of fire, to say the least. It was one of the first live shows I'd ever done, and it was streamed around the world at the Roundhouse. And despite being one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, it was also one of the most incredible. Following that, we went on tour with Maroon 5 around Europe in arenas. I went with one of my best friends, and we had the time of our lives. I look back at those videos, and I look back at them with such pride. I can hold my head up high. I've heard my vocals, I've seen the crowd, and I've got nothing to be ashamed of. I understood the brief, but I couldn't tour forever. And around the time of that tour, my manager took some personal time, which I completely understood. It would have been an issue for me personally if I didn't have Lauren, who was Jordan's right-hand lady, and she was a godsend to me. She was there for me in all the ways you'd hope someone would be. Personally, professionally, she put up with me in so many different ways, and I'm so grateful for her, and I remain great friends with her to this day. As hard as we all worked, and as much as we believed in the album, the land masses were shifting around me. My team was leaving the label, my manager was taking time off, and it was the perfect storm. During that storm, and as the doors were being closed to me, I got myself into a relationship, a romantic one. My first, in point of fact. And for a while, it was an amazing thing. We created a bubble, a shelter. It was somewhere I hid from the world, and that was a beautiful thing. But you could only hide away for so long, and I think I hid away for too long, to the detriment of myself and that relationship ultimately. A couple of years ago, we sadly broke up, but we're still great friends and still very close. Shortly before that relationship ended, my manager very sadly died. So all roads were leading back home. I was battle weary, and when I got back home, my parents were in trouble. I can't get into what trouble that was, but suffice to say, I was needed there. And despite the sad circumstances for them, to be needed for me when my ego and pride and sense of self and mental health was so diminished was actually an incredible thing. And so we got to work. And eventually we got the ship out to sea, so to speak. But at the same time, I'd always planned on how I was going to come back, what I was going to do. There were contractual obligations that made things more complicated, but there were also emotional things to consider. I was struggling mentally. Those around me were very patient with me, actually, all things considered. The people that believed in me and the people that supported me. But something always held me back. There were mental and emotional blocks that I was wrestling with. To be honest, I couldn't even sing for years. Not long after that, COVID hit. And COVID has devastated our lives, all of our lives, in so many different ways. But it's also allowed for some of us, me certainly, to reflect, to look in the mirror, to face some demons. And upon facing those demons, I've come to think about answering a few of my own questions of myself. What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do with my life's work, the one that's left at the vault behind at Interscope? Now, I'm not an individual or special case. There are so many artists with so many pieces of work that are left behind so many locked doors, and none of that is particularly important now. What is important is the fundamental question of, do I want to do this anymore? Is the anguish and the mental turmoil and the pressure worth it? To be honest, this video is one of the hardest things I've ever had to make. I've recorded it and edited it and filmed it 10 times maybe. It's traumatic, but I think the trauma is worth it, or at least going through the trauma is worth it for so many different reasons. And I'm so glad I'm doing it now. The conclusion I drew upon all my thinking in lockdown and isolation was that I had unfinished business. And I wanted to finish it and maybe start some new business. And that starts with you guys and this community here that's been around for so long now. I'm so touched by your support from everything I've done over the summer with the songs and the music and the reception you gave me when I got back. Having said that, there's so much more to come. There's so much more I've already recorded and edited and done, in point of fact, but this was the video I wanted to put out before all that. And because it was taking me so long to do, that's all sort of caught in a traffic jam. Now I'm doing this, and hopefully this is it. I can start to put out everything else and make the plans and put up everything that I've been doing. As a part of that, I have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/Nick Gardner. If you want to go over there and be part of that community, there's extra content, live performances, all kinds of great stuff. Even if you don't want to get involved over there and you're just here for the and giggles, I'm appreciative for that too. There's, like I say, a lot to say, a lot more to reveal, which I will do. Stay tuned, clickbait. And I can't wait for you to see what I've done and what I'm going to do. But before I do that and sign off, I think I need to get a couple of things done. The first of which is to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who supported me, everybody who wondered where I was, everybody who asked me how I was. The second is an apology. People spent so much time and money and energy and belief on me, and I can't help but think, in the hiding away from the world, I turned my back on them. And I never meant to do that. I just felt so lost and alone and stuck. Despite all the help people were giving me, it's an inside job. It's something I had to do. And I did it. With a little help from my friends and family. And I'm in a new relationship now, which always helps. And that is one of the most wonderful adventure of my life, and I can't wait to tell you all more about that. In the meantime, there's a new video coming out soon. It's a song I performed before. It's one of mine. It's one that I think deserves more time in the spotlight. So look out for that and look out for everything else. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you soon.